I have a message for you. You must begin to print a little paper and send it out to the people. Let it be small at first, but as the people read, they will send you means with which to print, and it will be a success from the first.
Herald, since the days in Battle Creek.
When I came here, it was unbelievable. I never knew there was such a place as this.
This place here was designed by God to carry the message of salvation, and it's holy, sacred work.
And I can't imagine how this church could ever exist without books.
From this small beginning, it was shown to me to be like streams of light that went clear around the world.
The roar of presses is music to the ears of every Seventh-day Adventist. Each of us can, no doubt, trace his knowledge of saving grace to the work of the press. Either directly or indirectly, all those who enter the kingdom of glory will give some measure of thanks to the faithful pressman.
It's like we used to go through the building and say, last week, I didn't know a thing about printing. This week I are one. The attitude was, it was a job that had to be done and you wanted to be part of it. And I wanted to be part of it. And I was too.
When I first came here, I was working in a little electrical machine shop in Silver Spring. Well, I got out of my job at 4 o'clock and the review let out at 5 o'clock. So every afternoon for about 3 weeks, they could count that Jim Hansen would be sitting down waiting for the personnel man, Mr. Palmer. He showed me a file cabinet, pulled out a long file, and he said, just look here. These are files of people that want jobs at the Review and Herald. I says, Mr. Palmer, how far back do they go? Some of these go back probably 25 years. I said, well, they don't have a job by now. They don't need one. I need it now.
They said, well, why don't you go out? They're building a highway out here. Maybe they'll hire you to build the highway. I said, that's not where I want to be. I came to come down here. Of course, when I walked in the door of the Review, I knew I was going to be here. They didn't, but I did.
When I was 15 years old, I came to the Review and Herald for the first time. My cousin Gary Graves played the guitar and I sang a solo. We did that for chapel when it was down at the old building in Tacoma Park. And I remember walking into the building and standing up in front of all of the employees and thinking, I want to be a part of this.
I was teaching school in Indiana, and they decided to cut the church school where I was teaching to one teacher, and I was chosen to be teacher, but I would have had 7 grades. And just as the other teacher and I were discussing our rather bleak futures, the bell rang, and it was Russell Holt asking me if I would come for an interview with Southern Pub. So I did. I think the Lord was giving me a gentle shove.
But I was in between selling a pillow top mattress and a sectional couch one day at the furniture store, and the phone rang. And it was the editor of Guide magazine telling me that she had been praying for direction on who to find as an assistant editor.
Old place, I didn't know if I wanted to work there, but Alfred Lee would come in here and tell me that he just felt like the angels were walking up the hallways, you know. See, you know, he really had a very spiritual view of the work, and he'd have prayer with me when I came in there. You know, one of those general prayers like, Lord, lay it on his heart to come and join us. No pressure.
But I was walking through the English department of Oakwood University, Oakwood College at the time, and someone yelled through a hallway and said, "That's the guy you want. That's the guy right there." And then they yelled my name and said, "Dwayne, get in here." And when I doubled back, and that person was one of my professors, one of my journalism professors, and she at the time was in the office with Stephen Ruff, former editor of Message Magazine, and that's how it happened.
When they said, can you go back to Message and can you edit Message, I didn't think about it twice. There are certain things that you weigh in life, and this for me was very important. People often ask, what are you going to do? What, you know, do you miss the law? People are called to come and do what they can do. If the Lord asks you to do certain things, that's what you do. And that's why I came back. I don't consider it a great sacrifice. I'm honored and privileged to have worked here.
Our story next takes us to the composing room, where Ray Hill is the foreman. The text is set in type on one of the 7 linotype machines. As skilled fingers operate the keyboard, letters are formed from molten type metal.
I love the sound, you know, it's kind of a clack, 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 and it's a beautiful sound to listen to, I thought. The smells, you know, the smells of ink and gasoline mixed, and nice smells. Hot lead. And hot lead, the hot lead.
When you show a person a page of a book that was made, say, back in 1920s or 30s, even up in the 40s and 50s, that was made out of lead, that might weigh 10 or 15 pounds, and that you had, when you put a book together, you actually had tons of lead to make a book.
Then the pages are locked up in a frame known as a case, preparatory to being rolled to the presses.
Oh, they were heavy. But when you slid it off the table, you slid it onto a table that has wheels on it, and you can just take it into the pressure. Oh yeah, that was heavy stuff. And if you didn't have it the right tightness, you go to pick it up, it'll fall right out through the bottom. And I've had it happen to me a number of times. Not a number of times.
You only made that mistake once, because it was too bad the second time.
140-page book, you know. Well, if you're setting hot lead, you got one chance to get it to come out close to 140 pages, you know.
And I remember making a book up, it was 228 pages. Well, it came up about 7 or 8 pages short because I made it up one line, each page one line longer, see. And Bill Medley was a fantastic designer, and he just said, well, we'll put a picture or 2 in there. And so I didn't have to make it over.
And now you do it on the Mac. Instead of counting the character, you just respec it. You know, you resize it a half point. The type a half. We can do that. You know, resize it a half point or a quarter point. Very, very easy to do. See, you know, I don't think anybody counts the copy anymore. You know, we think editors ought to. We think they ought to come closer than maybe twice the length.
To set type on that first computers we had, it had to be absolutely as dark. No light could get in that room at all except film quality red light, and that's it. About the time you get the book really going good, somebody'd open the door and the light would shine in like that. And that was the end of the book. You'd have to do it all over again. So we'd lock it and everything else. Then the boss, he'd have the key and he'd come in. And sometimes we had to work in the dark.
Russ discusses his painting of Daniel and Cyrus with his father, Sanford Harlan, associate art director who has been with the Review and Herald since the days in Battle Creek.
And he's one person that actually was at the fire in Battle Creek. But he used to tell about the first time they had got a camera in the art department. They said no cameras in the art department. I mean, this is a waste. You don't use this. No, he told us this. And he said, finally, things advanced enough. They says, okay, we'll buy you a camera to take illustrations, but you have to have permission to when you want to use it.
T.K. Martin, he had a very clever, in the best sense of the word, a clever, and I think the Holy Spirit was leading him, ways in which to express truth that would be appealing to people. And you take Anderson's pictures. Most of those were generated in the mind of T.K. Martin, and Anderson was the one who translated those ideas into the beautiful pictures.
I remember he used to tell the story. You've probably seen the book, that they needed someone to pose for the devil, and he did. And he would tell about it, and he says, I can't think of a better one. And
when Lawrence Maxwell started Guide, I remember this story. He was very upfront with the fact that he thinks the main reason he got the job is because he was the son of Arthur Maxwell. But I think about that. He was 23, I think, when he became editor of Junior Guide. And this guy didn't have a whole lot of support staff. I mean, he was getting the story. He was writing half the stories, it seemed like.
Insight was almost stillborn because they developed a dummy issue with sample stories that they felt would appeal to young people as they understood them then. They sent it out for reaction from the youth leaders, and they got quite a reaction. As one individual said, it was the biggest disappointment since 1844. But they were able to work it through, and the magazine came out.
We found out that we didn't have enough money to meet the payroll. I walked into Glenn Beagles, who was my assistant at that time, and we just knelt down and right there in Beagles' office, and we prayed earnestly, probably about half an hour or so. We got up, and then in the morning we found out that we had enough money to not only to cover the payroll, we had a lot more, and since then we never borrowed.
I had a number of equipment failures happening, and one of the pieces of equipment in the bindery had broke down, and I was like, Lord, I'm just swamped. I really need your help. And I prayed, and the worker had told me that they had been trying for 30 minutes to get this piece of equipment to work, and it just would not work. And so I prayed, and the worker demonstrated what he did, and he hit the start button, and the machine just took off. And I never, we have since replaced that piece of equipment, but that particular part of the machine never failed after that.
Roger called me and said, Karen, we've got a problem with this. It's just not picking up right. It's not picking all the pieces up right. And I said, this is God's work. And I said a prayer. And I said, Lord, this is all printed. All of this stuff has to go out. And we were on a short time frame. And I opened my eyes and I watched for a little while, and it was still jamming. And I prayed again. And it just started picking up. You know, the little suckers just started picking the job up perfectly. And Roger said, I can't believe this. And I said, it's an answer to prayer.
We were working on GC Session Review, and I know it had to go that night. And the computer broke down, and we didn't know how to fix it. So we got down and prayed, and in a few minutes it started running again. And we got that review off that night, and the next day here come the guy in from New York to fix it, see. And I know the Lord does stuff like that.
I felt I was walking on holy ground. That's true. I had a very awe-inspiring feeling about the Review and Herald. As I wandered around the Review and saw the people and met them and talked to them, and I realized that the Lord was using this institution to carry the message of salvation to the world.
I believe the Lord helped us many times to avoid difficulties in delivery by blessing our workers and making them more productive.
I've seen pressmen in there with work all night, and they're wore out, and one of them had a wooden leg, and I remember one night he dropped the chase on his foot. It weighed 1,000 pounds. And he walked in and run that press the rest of the night with blood running out of his shoe. And he only had one leg. So I know he was dedicated.
We worked many hard days and many nights here. I used to go home like maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, take a shower, sleep for an hour or so, and come back down and go to work again when we were putting these big presses in.
I shall not attempt to give technical names for the different kinds of presses. There are presses for color jobs and presses for black and white. Presses specially made for large jobs, like long runs of a journal. and presses that care for small jobs, like a little circular. Here we see one of our large rotary presses that runs 2 colors in one operation. The last word in fine printing.
I put a page on Brother Chase's one time backwards, and he come in and said, "Brother, you're wasting the Lord's money." And a few days later I went out there and he had dozed off. And his press had caught on fire because you had gas. The fence goes across. I said, "Brother, you're burning the house down."
You know, that press was bought just for the Bible story. That's how many of them we were selling. As soon as one of them books came out, we bought it.
Even today, you go into a doctor's office and you'll see a Bible story laying there. I mean, I enjoy picking it up and going through it and say, "Oh my, remember this page? Remember that person in this picture?" Because they used a lot of local people, for Russ Harlan did, for his illustrations. I said, "Oh yeah, that's so-and-so, and that's so-and-so."
Dr. Blanco's works, his narrative was the book called Savior, a compilation of all 4 Gospels, so it reads like a narrative. That job was run about the first month that I worked there, and such a beautiful cover, and I was I was nervous as all get out, wanted it to look good. And
project that I'm glad to be a part of, the Super Bowl, the special Super Bowl edition of Insight Yes, that was groundbreaking. It was so different. You know, I really believed in that project, and it came off, and I think came off very well. And it went far and wide, and we still get people who want us to do it again, who want Insight to continue that.
Once we did a Easter sunrise service down on the ball field area. And I mean, it was a big deal. We had people making Roman armor back in the factory, and choirs and musicians, and I tell you, standing out the front window of this place before dawn and watching those cars come in, it still turns.
Probably the biggest thing that happened is, and it really happened as a result of this plant being built here. Elder Wilson, Elder Neil Wilson, invited the chairman of the Council of Religious Affairs from Russia to come to the United States and visit the General Conference, a publishing house, medical institution. And so we took him on a walking tour through the whole plant and explained how we laid it out and why we did it. When we got to the art department and the beautiful paintings on the walls there, he just stopped and he was stunned. He said, "These are absolutely fabulous." And I could hardly get him out of that lobby area where he had all those paintings. And we took him back to the big web press. And he saw that press, and we were printing the Adventist Review, 30,000 an hour, just clicking them off. And he tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, "You must come to Russia and build a publishing house like this."
The things that we have gone through together to try and get materials out to minister to others have united us in a way that is more than family bonds.
It's fun being a part of this giant family where I know everyone and they know me.
There's never a dull day. I love what I do, and it may seem mundane to someone else, but I love it.
At every turn, every department that I worked in, I had wonderful people to guide me and work with me. You felt like you were part of something, like you are part of something, and it means a lot. And to know that people would support you and care about, you know, where you are in life and what's going on. You could feel that from just about everybody in the building. It was a wonderful time, wonderful times.
I just shake my head and think, God, and I've told him this in prayer many times. I've said, there are so many people that could be doing this better than what I've been able to do. Why would you choose me? And all I can do is thank him, because that's what I feel is just this deep sense of gratitude that he's allowed me to be a part of this ministry.
Any of those jobs you do, it's an honor and a privilege to do them and be a part of God's work, because, wow, if you could just touch or wash the tires on the car or the limo that the Lord is running in, it was such what a privilege.
Learning to be a mechanic and so forth, and entering into the work field as a mechanic, and then be able to combine those two together. There again, it's divine intervention, you know. It's only by God that you can do these things, you know.
To see them get excited and have a relationship in Jesus because of something that you had your hand in any way is a blessing that's just phenomenal.
I always felt, I'm not saying it's so, but I'm saying I felt that I was working for the Lord.
I guess the fun thing to think about working here at the Review is wondering how many people will be in heaven because of something that I had something to do with.
Jesus said that people will come up to you and say that I'm here because of you, so who knows? I don't know how many have helped. I don't know. Even if it's just one. Even if it's just one. That'd be perfect.
Can't imagine anything I could have done that would have pleased me as much as what I did there. I think I was most fortunate to have had a lifetime at the Review and Herald.
When I walk into the Review today, I see people that I've prayed with, I've shared with, I love, and it's that fellowship that's so important.
I don't like to say the thing over and over and over again, but the people I met at the Review and Herald, they were okay. And I hope to see them in heaven.
Over the long haul, when it was all said and done, I belonged here. I feel without any question whatsoever that the Lord led me here, and this was the work for me to do. And I've always felt that way, and I'll probably die thinking the same way.
I've had a little more than 6 years working here. I wish it was 36 years. If I could go back and do it over, that would be my choice. But 6 years is better than 0 years.
There's nothing like publishing. You can't, let's see. I'm great at sales, you know that. I love connecting people, but I choose to work in publishing because connecting somebody with a great blender is not going to change their life. But connecting them with a book, a parenting book, a cookbook, a devotional, things that continue to take your faith and turn them back to Christ. That's life-changing. That makes the world a better place.
There is a reason for me to be here. There is a purpose that you have made clear. Jesus, I love you, and I want my life to be lived for your glory, to be good in your sight. Well done, I wanna hear you say well done. At the end of my days, all I want well done. I wanna hear you say, well done. At the end of my day, at the end of my